Okay, comrades, I'm been asked to speak on what is socialism. We're witnessing a world in crisis. Acute poverty, environmental destruction, wildfires, floods, endless war in one part of the world or another. 1 billion people on the planet who don't have access to clean water. And we live in a society where hate and prejudice, racism, sexism, homophobia, barriers to disabled people all permeate our lives. The issues seem insurmountable, so how can we possibly make a difference? We say we have to fight for socialism. Most of the problems faced by humanity and by the planet can be traced back to the system of capitalism that we live under. A system where profit rules, where the making of money, the accumulation of wealth, which is the unpaid labour of the working class, is put above and beyond anything else. And there is an alternative: socialism, real democratic socialism, and then on to true communism. Socialism is actually a very simple idea. It's about using the wealth and resources of society for the betterment of everyone. Ending want, ending wars, ending the never-ending crisis that we see before us. Today, more than ever before in human history, the enormous wealth, science and technique exists, which could easily provide all of humanity with the necessities of life. And not just the necessities, a world of plenty, an explosion of art and culture, music, literature. New technologies are being developed daily, which are beyond our wildest dreams. And yet we're told that even the basics of life, like a decent job, a home, public services, can't be afforded. Local authorities such as Woking Council going bankrupt. Inflation, food prices and rents going through the roof while workers' pay is held down. A massive increase in food bank use, in homelessness, in rates of suicide, particularly amongst young people. The obstacle is capitalism, a system that puts the production of profit for the very few, the millionaires and the billionaire owners of industry, before the needs and aspirations of the vast majority, including the masses of poor and working class people throughout the world. We often look inwards at ourselves and at each other, because capitalism alienates us from each other and from the products of our labour. Human beings, or rather our labour power, our ability to work productively, become commodities. We've all experienced the effects of this alienation. We may have problems with addiction, we might be compulsive gamblers, have difficulties with relationships, even struggle knowing and understanding who we are and what is our place in the world. These seemingly personal issues are a direct result of the system of capitalism that we live under. I want to quote from someone who's far more eloquent than me, from someone called Eugene Debs, who stood for the presidential candidate as a presidential candidate in 1904 in America for the Socialist Party. That was before the 1905 and 1917 revolutions in Russia. He received 3% of the vote, by the way, so you don't always get, that's at that time. His opening words, some of the opening words in his speech was, "Chairman," and remember the languages of that of the time, "Chairman, citizens and comrades, there's never been a free people, a civilized nation, a real republic on this earth. Human society always consisted of masters and slaves, and the slaves have always been and are today the foundation stones of the social fabric. The 25 million wage workers in the United States are 25 million 20th century slaves. They who buy and sell in the labour market are alike dehumanised by the inhuman traffic in the brains and blood and bones of human beings. Let me say at the very threshold of this discussion that the workers have but the one issue in this campaign: the overthrow of the capitalist system and the emancipation of the working class from wage slavery. Their eyes are open and they can see. Their brains are in operation and they can think. The very moment a working man begins to do his own thinking, he understands the paramount issue, parts company with the capitalist politician, and falls in line with his own class on the political battlefield. The political solidarity of the working class means the death of despotism, the birth of freedom, the sunrise of civilization." The purpose of this discussion is to look at socialism. To fully understand what we mean by socialism and by communism, we'd also need to understand the achievements of the Russian Revolution and how and why the horror of Stalinism developed. John introduced that subject recently and we had a good discussion. We also need to understand how profit is produced to gain an understanding of Marxist economics. Again, we've had a good discussion of that. We had Jared come to speak on Marxist economics, although one discussion on any of these things is never enough. We should also look historically at the various theories and attempts to develop different socialist models. I haven't got time to go into all those areas, but they all need their own discussions and understanding of why they went wrong and where they were wrong. I want to talk about what we mean by socialism. why we fight for it, and what it could mean for humanity and the planet. So first and foremost, socialism is about ownership of what Marx called the means of production. In Britain, we talk about the 150 or so largest companies that dominate almost all of the economy. We'd also need to take ownership and control of the major banks and finance houses and the land. Immediately, those vast resources could be ploughed into ethical, sustainable employment, healthcare, education, clean energy, etc. Without the drive for profit for a few, we could immediately ensure everyone had access to decent work, maybe initially only having to work 20 hours a week, with a sharp increase in salary levels. Let's use the machines to improve our lives rather than throw us on the scrap heap. High quality health and social care, free education at all ages, and the time to enjoy life. Empowering people to create art, music, literature, film, fashion, culture, and to participate in the running of society. Resources could be ploughed into public services, free clean transport, and good quality sustainable homes. That kind of economic system requires conscious planning. Some of this happens already under capitalism. Large corporations already plan levels of production, distribution, pricing schemes, etc., but that's to maximise their profits. The technology is there for the working class to use and improve upon, taking away the individual profit motive and aiming to fulfil human need, to sustain and improve the environment, and to liberate humanity. AI and automation, if used and developed for the benefit of society as a whole, means machines will be capable of replicating more and more of what was, until now, uniquely human work. The combination of an extreme supply of machine labour linked to a virtually limitless supply of cheaper, cleaner, renewable power in wind and solar energy would make resource extraction beyond our world possible, meaning a cosmos of potential raw materials and places to live. Left to capitalism, we're not only unlikely to see that kind of a future, but if we did, as the myriad of dystopian sci-fi films predict, it will only be on the backs of an enormous underclass living unproductive lives in the underbelly of society, and will lead to the same destruction and ravaging of the ecosystems of other planets in the pursuit of profits. A democratic world socialist society could literally achieve what today seems impossible. Apparently, in just 90 minutes, enough potential solar energy hits the Earth's surface to meet the present demand for energy for an entire year. Every 12 months, we receive twice as much energy from the sun as will ever be obtained from the entirety of Earth's non-renewable sources, such as coal and oil. And we could look at sustainably using the mineral resources off-world, particularly on near-Earth or asteroids. Look, let's just look at one labelled 16 Psyche, located in the belt between Mars and Jupiter. It's one of the largest in the solar system, composed of iron, nickel, copper, gold and platinum. Its iron content alone is estimated under capitalism to be worth $10,000 quadrillion. I'm not an expert, but the scientists out there would be far better working for us all in protecting the future of the people on the planet and the solar system, rather than furthering the Playboy careers and space games of Elon Musk and Richard Branson. We already had an excellent discussion led by Ryan on can capitalism be reformed. I won't go over that again in detail, but it's clear that any reform granted under this system, under pressure of the working class, will be taken away. All the reforms of the past 200 years have been attacked and whittled away by the capitalists, including free higher education, dental care, mental health services. Everything is being sacrificed on the altar of profit. So what does a socialist society look like? Marx was often attacked for not laying out a blueprint of his future ideal socialist or communist society. But he made it clear that the working classes of the world would have the job of developing, designing and running society, and they would determine the structures of a future socialist world. But some things are non-negotiable as Marxists. Ownership of the commanding heights of the economy, the land and its natural resources would belong to the entire population. Democracy would need to be a real and living thing, not the fossilised parliamentary sham of capitalist democracy or a top-down bureaucracy like in Stalinist Russia, but a vibrant democracy with the majority of the population are fully engaged in their workplaces and their communities, and together democratically control society. Lenin outlined 4 conditions for a socialist democracy, which we would describe as the transitional government from capitalism into communism. And they were the regular elections of all officials, all representatives, civil servants, and the right of recall. If they're not doing their job, they can be deselected and replaced. Rotation of roles. There should be time limits on how long someone could be in any position of power. He said, when everyone's a bureaucrat, no one's a bureaucrat. A maximum differential of 1 to 4 in wages. No one should earn more than 4 times the salary of the workers they represent. and that differential itself was only allowed to keep some of the existing government experts on side. Our members, when we stand for office, for paid office, in workers, MPs, general secretaries, etc., we only ever stand on the basis of accepting an average worker's wage, starting as we mean to go on. And also, no standing army, but an armed people to defend the revolution. This would be perhaps something for discussion, but this would be more relevant in some countries than others, where guns are carried as a matter of course. Another important lesson we have to understand is the role of the capitalist state. Initially, Marx and Engels believed the working class could take over the existing state machinery, the judiciary, the army, the police, etc. But after the Paris Commune in 1871, they learned that the working class has to smash the old capitalist state machine and bring in their own workers' state. Since then, that lesson's been learned 100 times, with socialist governments being attacked by their own armed forces. The most famous being in Chile in 1973, where a left reformist government and its supporters were drowned in blood. And we've got Hannah Sell coming to speak on those events soon. And we should also have a meeting on the lessons of the Paris Commune, by the way. It's a very important area. I've got a quote from Rosa Luxemburg. Rosa Luxemburg was a German revolutionary who was murdered by the forces of social democracy, and I haven't got time to go into that, but look it up and read about it. She said, the grave of the Paris Commune ended the first phase of the European labour movement as well as the First International. Since then, there began a new phase. In place of spontaneous revolutions, risings and barricades, after which the proletariat each time fell back into passivity, there began the systematic daily struggle, the exploitation of bourgeois parliamentarism, mass organisations, the marriage of the economic with the political struggle, and that of socialist ideals, with stubborn defence of immediate daily interests. For the first time, the pole star of strict scientific teachings lit the way for the proletariat and for its emancipation. Instead of sects, schools, utopias, and isolated experiments in various countries, there arose a uniform international theoretical basis which bound countries together like the strands of a rope. Marxist knowledge gave the working class of the entire world a compass by which it can make sense of the welter of daily events, and by which it can always plot the right course to take to the fixed and final goal. Lenin's conditions for socialism may change and develop as the working class fights for control, but the principles will remain. Only the working class, armed with a socialist programme and leadership willing to, and prepared to go the whole way, can achieve the transformation we need to a socialist society. The capitalists will not give up their power without a fight. Socialism also has to be international, but we have to start from where we are. Nation states exist in the real world, and very much in the consciousness of the various peoples of the world. But one country, or a series of countries, seeing through a successful workers' revolution, would see others following like dominoes, as workers learn from what is happening elsewhere. A truly socialist society would encourage workers' revolutions everywhere, but they wouldn't impose them, and they would encourage other socialist states to join together, whilst respecting the national traditions, cultures and languages of the world's diverse populations. Over time, with the majority of the population running society democratically, Marx argued that the workers' state machine would begin to wither away, leading to a truly communistic society. Isaac Deutscher, a Polish Marxist, once wrote, "Socialism is not evolution's last and perfect product, or the end of history, but in a sense only the beginning." So under a truly communistic society, we could not only save the planet, but protect it, help it to thrive. We could develop the technologies needed to improve the lives of the entire population. We could all individually see more of the world and the universe than we've ever seen before, eat varieties of food we've never heard of, and all lead full lives, potentially equivalent to those of today's super-rich, if we wanted to. Freedom and plenty could become the norm as a society based on waged work and the pursuit of profit becomes as much of a historical relic as the feudal peasant and the medieval knight. We'll not only be happier and more comfortable with ourselves, we'll also have a sense of common purpose as humans, at one with the flora and fauna around us. We could be who we want to be rather than have our lives being shaped by forces outside our control. And I'll finish again with Eugene Debs from his same speech in 1904 and his closing words. The Socialist Party comprehends the magnitude of its task and has the patience of preliminary defeat and the faith of ultimate victory. The working class must be emancipated by the working class. Woman must be given her true place in society by the working class. Child labour must be abolished by the working class. Society must be reconstructed by the working class. The working class must be employed by the working class. The fruits of labour must be enjoyed by the working class, and war, bloody war, must be ended by the working class. These are the principles and objects of the Socialist Party, and we fearlessly proclaim them to our fellow men. We know our cause is just and that it must prevail. With faith and hope and courage, we hold our heads erect and with dauntless spirit marshal the working class for the march from capitalism to socialism, from slavery to freedom, from barbarism to civilisation.